So scale is best described by the shape of a curve. So the curve goes like this: idea, R&D, proof, initial replication, scale up. And when we talk about scale, we just throw out 1 million. How about 1 million? How would 1 million be? So 1 million kids' lives saved, 1 million hectares of forest preserved, 1 million kids well educated. Okay, you're thinking about 1 million? Okay, now let's think about 10 million. Let's think about 100 million, 1 billion. So it's just that continually that next order of magnitude. Now, once you have your model, to really refine it, you've got to understand two things. You've got to understand who's going to really do, who's going to really deliver, who's going to really replicate your model at scale, and who's going to pay for it. Where does the revenue come from? And then there's only 4 possibilities. It's you doing a very high leverage solution or growing a very big organization. If you have a profitable solution, it's lots of businesses copying your solution. If you have a solution that needs a subsidy, it means a lot of NGOs are going to be doing your solution. Or you create something that government can take up and deliver. Those are your 4 choices. It's you, lots of businesses, lots of NGOs, or governments. So if you got something super high impact, maybe it's digital in nature, so it doesn't require a huge organization to get to real impact at scale. Then you can do it at high quality with a relatively small organization and have enormous impact. There's not as many of those as people think. Here's the thing in the social sector that people don't understand. It's marginal businesses don't scale. So businesses are driven toward efficiency by the profit motive. And businesses have access, as a class, have access to more capital than anything else. The problem is you do have a dynamic tension between impact and profit, usually. Unless your business model is so well aligned with your impact that you can't actually do the business without having the impact. The truth is, what you really want is a model with impact baked in, that increasing the profitability only leads to more impact. We got a guy, for example, who is doing a forestry company where he grows eucalyptus trees as a cash crop on little poor people's farms all over the place. And so what he's got in effect is a huge tree plantation, but it's dispersed. He gets rich if it works, and he does more of it, and that just means more really poor people making money off growing trees for him. Well, if you're serious about social impact, you don't want to be the only anything unless that actually provides a persuasive road to maximum impact. So the trick in the social sector is, how do you scale via business without trying to close off the market to others in search of maximum profitability? And that's a jujitsu trick that a lot of people just can't get their heads around.
If you want to make a big change in a large market, scaling via that market in the long term is great. But in a broken market, you're probably going to need like venture philanthropy or grant dollars at the start as an entry point.
That actually is that's the home run. That's the holy grail. For example, if you want to do something for other NGOs, probably got to be really simple. NGOs are notoriously bad about delivering other people's models at high quality, and you have to be aware of that. If you've got a super simple solution that is designed to benefit huge numbers of people in a broad array of settings, government has the mandate and resources to do things, to deliver things at big scale. Just boom, deliver them. And the problem is always quality and commitment and efficiency.
Okay, so apparently scaling via business is really hard, and scaling via an NGO or government might work, but we don't know. How do we figure out which thing to build for at the start?
Like we got these guys in Madagascar called Blue Ventures, and they have this really cool way of going into communities and saying, hey, your fisheries are trashed. Let us set up a small reserve that won't hurt you in any way. It's just a small no-take zone, a closure for 3 to 6 months. And say there's a rapidly reproducing species like octopus in there. And they go back after 3 months and the place is teeming. 3 months, 6 months, whatever. And suddenly people are seeing that, hey, community management could be a really good thing. You know, we're stuck in this cycle of overfishing. We could get out of it now. So we're thinking about, okay, Blue Ventures got really good at this. Who's the doer at scale? One idea was maybe the big conservation organizations could decide at the top, hey, this is awesome, we're going to roll it out throughout our countries. Maybe they had to go work with smaller organizations in the field who are they could really teach directly how to do this. Maybe governments could do it. And so they wanted to investigate all three of these before they really settled on one, or maybe they could even pull off two. But so in that case, they developed a model that was conceivably scalable, and then tried to figure out who really should be the doer at scale.
Right, so we're building towards a very specific scaling partner, or we're leaving our options open. Either way, we're baking scale into the design of the organization. Okay, let's recap. Who's going to actually do this? You will, by building a big organization. Lots of NGOs might replicate your model. Businesses will do your intervention for you, or government will implement it.
You are developing and iterating on a model. For it to be truly scalable, your doer has to be able to do it. So the sooner you can understand realistically who your doer is, you can design it so that they can in fact do it. They need to be, in a very real sense, it needs to be designed for them. Okay, so somebody really needs to provide the revenue to drive your solution. And again, you only have 4 choices.
Customers buying it, government taxes paying for it, big aid, or private philanthropy. And we want to actually design towards one of these 4 options as soon as we can.
And each of those has its pros and cons.
So with big aid, think like the World Bank, you know, like big multilateral, bilateral support, like DFID and USAID.
Big aid really doesn't want to do anything until it's ready to scale up. It can be a complete pain in the ass to get. Kind of once you figure out the key to that lock, you can get really good at it. And the thing is that a lot of governments don't raise much taxes. Poor countries don't have a lot of money, and a lot of basic services are provided by big aid. And so, for example, if you're doing primary education in Liberia, you've got to look toward big aid to fund it. The government's not going to raise enough taxes to really pay for it. Let's say you are a social entrepreneur coming up with a great new community health worker model. Your doer at scale is government, because that's the only way to get that into scale at a national level. And if the government has any money, then they can pay for it with taxes. If they don't have any money, they and you are going to have to go hat in hand to look for big aid. You know, most sub-Saharan African countries, a big part of their budget is big aid. Private philanthropy can be really flexible, but it rarely can take you beyond a certain level of growth. It's actually really, it's very flexible, more risk-tolerant capital. It's kind of hard to get.
So you've thought about your doer and payer at scale. You don't have to write down like how you're going to execute all this, right? This is design, not strategy. The strategy piece comes later. You're just getting like the key ingredients in place so that you're set up to do it. For the Inyenyeri cook stove, the doer is Inyenyeri. They build a business that makes the stoves. The payer is the customer that buys the thing.
A lot of people say, well, we don't know yet. You have to at least have an idea, or you don't know who you're designing for. What we tell people is know your doer and your payer as soon as you can. In a very real sense, it needs to be designed for them.